Hmm. Amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But under the right circumstances, a producer could make more money with a flop than he could with a hit. Hmm. Yes, it's quite possible.
Welcome to the NFC East Show, the only show keeping the NFC East honest. Williams, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Autumn is upon us. Feels good that football's back. A lot is happening, but I think the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I'm looking forward to another year of putrid NFC East performances.
You're so right, man. We've the winds of change are blowing through town. We've got the Cowboys leading off the season against the Bucks on Thursday. We've got a full slate of NFC East action coming up this weekend. I'm really excited for football to be back. How about you?
Yeah, I wasn't a week ago, but I am now. Something about the weather changing every year really prompts it. It used to also be like going back to school.
Yeah.
Like first week back in school, you'd be like, all right, it's football season. But yeah, I'm really feeling it now. I'm looking forward to finding a place to watch the game on Sunday. I don't know if I'll watch it with my folks or I'm not sure what the plans are yet, but I'm looking forward to getting really mad again. So
I'm ready to get hurt again. And I think we're gonna have plenty of reasons to be hurt this year, and I'm excited to talk about it with you. This is our preview pod. Before we get into previewing each of the teams, I just want to recognize that again, this was not a general election. Ballots were not distributed across everyone, so I think it has to be somewhat in question with the validity of this election. But based on who was polled, you won the first off-season all 2000s NFC East team. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
It pains me to congratulate you because I know deep down in my heart my defense is better than your defense, but people don't agree. Do you want to say a few words? Do you want to thank the voters? Do you want to thank Todd Hermans? What do you want to say?
Oh, well, first of all, Todd, if you're listening, this is what you get. You're the reason Raftery lost this, so I hope you feel that in your soul. And yeah, I stand on the shoulders of giants. It's really all those NFC East characters
Is that a pun? You stand on the shoulder of giants.
Not intentionally. They lift me up like eagle's wings.
This is my favorite.
I can't think of a Washington
game,
football
like
one.
A rhinestone cowboy.
But I think one thing that was forgotten that wasn't really focused on enough was that we did choose coaches as well. We didn't publicize that. And I do want, for the record, Raftery chose Andy Reid, and I chose Ben McAdoo. So it was a toss-up between McAdoo and Jim Zorn and Joe Gibbs at his current age. He might be dead. I don't know. He was always a healthy guy. We're gonna have to look up, is Joe Gibbs? I feel it's a coin toss for me. Is he alive? It feels like one of those things I knew about in like 2012 and forgot.
If you know that Joe Gibbs is alive, please email us at nfcleastmailbag@gmail.com. We will take any and all submissions. Yeah. Where is Joe Gibbs? Is Joe Gibbs healthy? Yeah. Please let us know. All right. Well, let's move into the preview. Who do you want to do first? Let's do our homers first, just so we're like don't meander towards the end. So I guess do you want to do the Giants first? Let's do Giants offense and then Giants defense. How you feeling about the Giants this year, man?
Bad. Very bad.
It's not looking good, is it?
No, there's this classic, and I know that you're now like frequenting the Giants Reddit and stuff like that, and you're up on what's happening. This happens every year where the Giants look horrendous in training camp and in preseason, and all the beat reporters are tweeting stuff like, I've seen more drop passes today than at like a JV football practice, like terrible stuff. And all the fans online are like, man, it's just training camp, like these reporters are full of shit, like they don't know anything. And then the Giants look so bad. The Giants haven't won it. I don't think the Giants have won an opening game in like 8 years. It's something insane. Like the Giants have not won an opening game since I was in high school or something.
Yeah, I do think there is something to like not being able to judge a team in training camp. Uh, it is reporters, which usually aren't the most objective sources of information, and then also the teams are mostly playing. I know they have joint practices now, but mostly they're playing themselves, which is a very hard way to get like any sort of like qualitative judgment about how they may play against other teams. You just don't know how good or bad both offense and defense is. But what the Giants up and down the roster have put on tape in preseason games and training camp this year has not been encouraging. And I think one of the biggest locuses of attention right now, and we've been saying this all offseason, is on Daniel Jones. Like, is this going to be the year? Maybe he doesn't even break out, but just like does enough to keep an offense on schedule and to feed the talented players around him, which is, I don't know whether it's a combination of coordinator in him or just him, but he hasn't been dialing it in all offseason.
Yeah, there are some really concerning signs there. I think mostly that he doesn't look any different in terms of his processing and going through his reads and kind of sensing pressure. Those have been his issues the whole time. It's just that mental side of things, and it so far it doesn't look promising. I don't think the Giants have helped him out. The offensive line looks really bad. I know they've invested some big picks in that O line, and it still just looks atrocious, which isn't going to go well for him. And not to get too in the weeds here, I also think I think we've talked about this before, but the way that the Giants see Daniel Jones is just wrong. They're trying to make him into kind of a pocket passer and kind of have him go through an extended, complicated, slow developing offense when I think it should be much more improvisational. Let him use his legs, roll him out all the time, make him act instinctively rather than try to treat him like he's Peyton Manning and make him think that that's what he has to be because he's just not that.
Yeah. A question just popped in my head for you. Do you think that, I hate to use the word bust. I'm not going to use the word bust. Is it too early to say that Daniel Jones is a reach at where he was drafted?
I think people were saying that right afterwards. So
I know that, but it's like,
yeah,
for me on him, I don't think he's a bad player. Like, I even think what he's put on tape up to this point isn't necessarily bad, or like he's a player that you can't win with, right?
yeah.
It's this weird thing where he clearly wasn't a top 10 pick. I think he's still a first round caliber quarterback. I think maybe ideally you would have taken a guy like him mid to late first round as opposed to top 10. But even then, it's like, all right, even if the Giants reached a bit to draft him at 5 and he isn't worth that, you still expect a late first round guy to play winning football. And that feels more like it's on the coaching staff and how they've approached developing him than him himself,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the 6 was a reach. Many people thought it was a reach at the time. I I thought it was a reach at the time. I wanted Allen, who went to Jacksonville in that spot, the defensive end. I think his name is Allen, right? Am I going insane? But sorry, I'm looking through the draft back then. I think one of the reasons why this pick makes sense is or can be defended is that there no quarterback taken after him is markedly better. Dwayne Haskins is the only other first rounder, and then you have this fall off into like the Drew Lock, Gardner Minshew. Like it just ended up, besides Kyler being drafted first overall, it ended up not being a deep quarterback class at all.
So for me, and I think we're on the same page about this throughout the season as we go week to week, but I think it's the Daniel Jones hot seat. I think that's what defines the Giants season. Saquon's still nursing back. I think he'll be up. I mean, for someone who didn't play for more than one game last year, of course he's going to add more to that offense this year, provided he stays healthy. I don't know whether he'll be a game breaker like you expect him to be, but given that, if his ceiling is just like serviceable, ground and pound kind of like potential game breaker at running back, then it does really fall on DJ and the passing game to keep the Giants offense on schedule more so than Saquon. And I think that's going to be the linchpin, you know?
Absolutely. And adding like Jones is gone if this year doesn't work out. I think first of all because it'll be clear that what he has never grown into, it will become more and more evident that that's just not going to happen. Like
Yeah.
he won't be a pocket passer or he won't sense pressure, what all those things. And the Giants have multiple first round picks next year, so they can bundle and move up if they need to for a franchise quarterback. You have to think that was in the back of their minds when they traded down in this year's draft.
Yeah, for sure. Now, the defense last year on the Giants, that was the one surprising bright spot. They have added a few more pieces there. Are you feeling positive? Or do you feel like that will be the strong suit of the team this year, but just maybe not strong enough to get them over the hump? How do you feel about the defense?
Yeah, I think the defense will be good. It's harder to predict defensive performance year to year. Um, Especially when it's kind of like what the Giants did last year, which was a lot of like little scrappy guys making big plays in big moments. I think I had a Nico Lalos rant at one point. So it's things like that you can't count on to happen again. I do think that they're going to be more of like a bend, don't break defense. Like, they're going to allow a good amount of field goals, but I think they'll definitely get tougher. The issue with that is that field position becomes a question, and I don't think the offense is good enough to churn out 70-yard drives over and over. So I like the defense. I don't think it's enough to really change what the core of this team is.
All right. My one last Giants question for you before we go to the Eagles. Last year, the Evan Ingram drop compilation YouTube video was approximately 2 minutes long. Over or under in 2021?
Under, because he's hurt right now. I think the thing
he just
with
won't
Ingram,
have the opportunities.
Yeah. Look, I want to like Evan Ingram. By all accounts, he's a good guy. I mean, I'm not going to like him, but I want
Why are
to.
you heel turning on Evan Ingram right now? Just continue doubling down, dude. You don't be Evan Ingram, nice guy going into 2021.
I'm depressed, man. I need to. The vitriol isn't there for me.
He's a good guy. What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, all right. You want me to double down here? When Evan Ingram isn't being a net negative on the field, he's hurt. He's hurt a lot.
Yeah.
That gets forgotten, and he's hurt right now. I think this is going to be one of those years where he's hurt so that he can kind of slink back into the shadows of Giants memories. Like, oh, dude, when Ingram comes back, that's when this offense will like start hitting its stride, right? It's an act of like self-delusion at large.
He's gonna sign like a contract extension week 7 before he like comes
That's exactly he's gonna come off like IR. He's not on IR right now, but he's gonna we'll see what happens. He's gonna come off IR, he's gonna have a big game, like 90 yards, a TD, a couple first downs, like makes a guy miss. Immediately penned to like a 4-year, $60 million extension. And then this, that's just, it's tantalizing. That's the whole frustration with him. Anyway, we'll have there was an Evan Ingram drops compilation, but what we need is a Sean Evan Ingram rant compilation.
We'll do that. I'll stitch that together when and if he ever leaves the Giants. It'll be like our goodbye card to Evan Ingram.
Because I was right about him, and I've been right about him for a long time. I'm wrong about almost everything I say on this.
I'll set it to like some nice instrumental piano music in the back, like Avril 14th by Aphex Twin or something. It'll be good. All right, let's go. Let's go to the Eagles. I've been obviously I'm the homer here. Do you want to ask me what my opinions are about this team?
Walk me through offense and why you feel how you feel.
So I think overall, the big question for me going into this season and off season for the Eagles was Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Like, who are these guys? What do they do? What's their vibe? I think early returns out of training camp kind of confirmed that maybe Sirianni is underrated. I think that I don't think we can say he's like a Super Bowl quality coach right now, but he's bringing a good and healthy enthusiasm, energy, and some discipline to the locker room. It seems I can't you really can't knock from what we've seen the job he's done with the team so far. With Hurts, I mean, I think he's kind of who we think he is. He's a young, unproven, has some juice in his legs, but maybe will be kind of a pedestrian passer. And who knows with the weapons the Eagles have, what that actually translates to offense, right? I think ceiling, they're probably not a top 10 offense. Their ceiling probably is like somewhere 11 to 15, more likely 15 to 20. You know, it really depends. I see them ultimately in that 10 to 20 overall offense window where they'll probably cough up some turnovers that look ugly. There'll probably be some games where they look electric, but a lot of games where they're stifled and shooting themselves in the foot because Sirianni can't figure out the rhythm of play calling against this particular opponent. Jalen Hurts maybe makes some boneheaded decisions over a 17 game stretch. You know, I don't think that we can look at 4 games last year and assume that the sparks he had there will carry over 17 straight games. So I think it'll be a learning experience for them this year. But I think ultimately they'll come out on the more positive end. They'll make fans feel like it's worth doubling down and investing around this core going into next year. Then it will be like, oh, wow, we're riding the wrong horses, you know?
Right. What I notice when I look at this roster is how young the wide receiver core is, and how that's kind of been a thorn in the side of Philly or Eagles fans for the last couple of years. What do you think the skill position situation looks like this year on offense?
I'm happy J.J. Arcega-Whiteside made the team.
This is what doubling down looks like. This is the wrong kind of doubling down.
I want that to be remembered as the first thing I said about the Eagles wide receivers this year. No, I think that my attention is honestly most on Jalen Reagor. I think Devontae Smith, you know, like any top 10 rookie wide receiver, maybe he looks like Justin Jefferson. Maybe he looks like he's a little bit too young for the league. No one really knows until we start playing, right? I would love if he shows up on the top end of rookie wide receivers. I would love to feel like we have like the next, you know, Randy Moss or Deshaun Jackson or something going into 2022, but I don't think that's hardly ever a wide receiver's rookie year. You know, for me, it's, do we have the beginnings of a young core that can grow with Jalen Hurts, or are we going to be playing like hot potato with wide receiver over the next 4 to 5 years? And I think Reagor showing something in his sophomore season, combined with hopefully like some of the energy and juice from like Quez Watkins or, you know, any of the other down the depth chart wide receivers, will show at least something that is like, okay, this is like a core of 3 to 4 players that we can like slap some value driven 2 to 3 year contracts on over the next like 3 to 4 years and have them grow with Jalen Hurts. Otherwise, it may just be Devontae Smith, and that's like not a good situation to be in.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Do you have any other offensive thoughts?
I think it's a big Miles Sanders year. I think it's a make or break for him.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, he's good. I think.
But is he good? That's my question. Like, is he
pretty good?
I just, he doesn't have, for his size, he doesn't have the horizontal movement that I would hope he would. He hits the hole strong, and I think that with good offensive linemen like we've been blessed with, he can break off some runs, but he hasn't consistently made the second level miss in his career yet. He's just ran past them in the passing game, you know?
Yeah,
Which
I do feel
I think it's like that's the division between like a, you know, a top 10 running back and like a middle of the pack running back. Like, is he David Montgomery or like prime LaShawn McCoy? You know?
Right. Yeah. I think part of that question is going to come down also to, he just doesn't get a lot of touches.
Yeah.
Historically, because Doug Peterson is off the Andy Reid tree of loving to pass the ball no matter what. So he's just to like his rate stats are really really good. Like his yards per carry and stuff like that is always good. You look at like a game log for the Eagles after the game, it's always like Miles Sanders 8 carries for 74 yards or something. You're like, why the hell could you give him the ball more? And I know your theory about all that, but
well, he's made to look good and get those opportunities because
right,
of how the passing game is based.
right, and that's the question. Is like to me the next level is like bell cow back with similar rate stats. Is that possible? Because if so, then these 800, 900 yard seasons become 1,300 yards, total ball control of the offense. Like, if he can stay healthy, obviously, that's a top 5 running back for sure.
And for me, I think if we're that unsure about the wide receivers and really also the tight ends, because who knows how long Ertz is going to stay here. Who knows if Goddard can be a bona fide number 1 as opposed to like a leftovers behind Zach Ertz getting primary coverage number 2. I think that Sirianni would benefit from the comfort blanket of an actual bell cow running back. We just don't know whether Miles Sanders is that guy. I think that he's like a dark horse hot seat guy for this year, while most of the attention is rightly on Sirianni and Hurts.
Yeah, for sure.
And then defense. Do you want to talk about defense? I think they'll be fine. They're not going to be great.
I'm a hater for this defense.
Oh,
I hate this defense.
You hate
on paper. So part of it is like the Giants last year. I didn't like their defense on paper entering the year, but I think Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, did a great job. I do think defense is one of those things where you can coach up some of these random dudes and put them in the right spots, and suddenly the defense is adequate. And maybe the Eagles have that this year. New coaching staff, always hard to tell, but man, I look at this back 7. Like the linebacking core into the secondary, like Anthony Harris and Steven Nelson and Jannard Avery, like I'm not inspired, man.
Yeah. The one thing is like it really does come down to Gannon for me and how he schemes this defense. I'm very used to watching Schwartz, right?
Yeah.
And I look at this, and to me, this roster is still constructed like a Schwartz defense, right? Where the defensive line will still be the strength, bar none. The linebackers will have to do just enough, and coverage is mostly physical and not finesse. Just trying to maul people and get to the quarterback fast. Steven Nelson, I don't think is as good as some Eagles fans are hyping up to be. I think we're just desperate for a left corner opposite of Darius Slay. And Darius Slay isn't even as much of a shutdown corner as he thinks he is. I think that our only bona fide secondary piece is probably Rodney McLeod. And I'm with you. Unless Eric Wilson steps up, our linebackers are in pretty bad shape as well. I think that still the defensive line is the bright spot. And I think that we're also going to benefit, I think, from being last year. We have the easiest schedule in the division. I think this defense is good enough for most of the competition we have, but this isn't a playoff defense.
Yeah, I think Fletcher Cox has been the linchpin of this defense for so long, and I feel like it's one Fletcher Cox injury away from being like the worst defense I've ever seen in my life. But we'll see.
The Jets exist, man. We're at least going to rank 31.
Not actually the worst defense. A very exposable defense that you can attack. Because to me, not to get too into the like X's and O's, if Fletcher Cox is around and he's still 85% of what he once was, it's very hard to run the ball against the Eagles defense. Graham, also a pretty good run stuffer, and Javon Hargrave. Like, there are some guys there who can stop the run, and so you want to get after that secondary with questions and that middle-level linebacking core that has probably some coverage issues, I would assume. But if the defensive line gets banged up in any way, then suddenly it's like, we got to start selling out to stop the run, or we got to, like, it just gets a lot, your options become so much more limited. So as it is right now, the defense has upside, but I think injuries are inevitable. And if any injury happens in the wrong spot to the wrong guy, Graham or Cox or even Barnett, like, it could get iffy fast.
Yeah. I think another thing that we need to be mindful of as Eagles fans too is like, at least in my experience watching football, and I have no idea whether this is like an actual educated take or not. When it comes to like developing players, I think throwing young defensive players into the deep end is a lot worse than throwing young offensive players into the deep end.
Yeah, especially I think, yeah.
Like, ideally, this defense does stay healthy, and we don't promote like weird practice squad guys into starting positions like we've had to do for the past 3 to 4 years. Because I think, just even mindset wise, like in defense, you're trying to prevent something from happening. And if you fail to prevent something from happening, that affects your ego and your confidence. On offense, you can always just kind of blame the fact that the defense was good and just like, oh, we'll live to see another down.
Yeah.
Like, let's just try to get to the next series sort of mentality, which I think is like fine for like the confidence of a young, bad offensive player who's learning. On defense, your lessons come at the expense of scores, which I think really hurts some young guys. And I don't want to put like, you know, Zach McPherson, the young corner we got, you know, in that position to have to play corner one this year. You know, I think he'll be much better off into years 2, 3, and 4 of his career getting easy wins in the slot this season and only being asked to do that, you know?
Yep.
I want to finish on the Cowboys since I have some hard knocks takes. Let's do Washington really quick. So, quite frankly, my opinion of Washington hasn't really changed throughout the offseason. They've done their business. They've remained quiet. I think for me, offense comes down to Fitzpatrick and whether he can keep them on schedule. And really, this team will live and die by their defense. But if I had to bet on one team winning this division this year, I think they've got the least problems. That doesn't mean they've got the highest ceiling. They just have the least problems.
I love this Washington team for what they are. They'd be my pick to win the division tomorrow. I think Fitzpatrick was a great pickup because his play style is a little more gunslinger and a little less game manager. And I feel like you can take those risks when you have such a good defense, which I'm barring horrific injuries. I would expect this team to have an outstanding defense and also a defense that creates chaos. Like I talked earlier about the Giants not getting good field position, even if their defense looks good. I think this Washington team is going to create turnovers, get a ton of sacks. Teams are going to be punting from their own end zone. And so Fitzpatrick is going to be working with a lot of short fields. The Curtis Samuel addition only helps that offense and takes some pressure off McLaurin. Some questions around the offensive line. Like I think that's just the state of the league right now is so many teams' offensive lines are kind of shabby at best. But this defense, man, I just love this. This front seven is so fun. Montez Sweat, I think you and I agree, is like a completely underrated monster. I wouldn't be surprised to see him really grow more. Matt Ioannidis, theoretically back this year, healthy.
100 Central
product, right? The pride of whatever county you're from. I can never keep those jerseys.
I played Pee Wee football with his brother, Matt Ioannidis.
And then there's Chase Young, who was good last year, really good, and kind of grew into the season, and who I think, if that trajectory continues, there's no reason to believe he's not just a complete monster this year. Like 15 sacks, total domination, has to be double teamed at every opportunity. So what's not to like? Like this team is fun. There's so much fun.
The only thing, just to play devil's advocate and like nitpicking it, and this is nitpicking it, I just want to see it for the entire season. Like, they got hot last year. Defense does tend to come and go, and it comes with like fitness and film study throughout the year. Like, can Rivera keep this defense disciplined enough to basically be lights out most games? You know, and if he can, and it's not just like a late season rally to try to get them into the playoffs where they're playing out of their minds, you know, then it's very, then I completely agree. Even if they aren't lights out, they're still going to be very good. And one thing that came to my mind while you were talking about the offense is I actually, Fitzpatrick's a journeyman. I have liked him from afar. Now that he's in my division, I have this gut instinct to hate him now just because I don't want it to work out for Washington.
Yeah.
Right. But the one thing I actually do kind of like for him in this point of his career is the pairing with Ron Rivera. I think they're low-key a very compatible coach-quarterback mix. Rivera being kind of the more gunslinging, aggressive, but also defensive-minded coach that can probably just trust an old journeyman vet like Fitzpatrick to basically co-offensive coordinate the offense with the coaching staff. I think that could be a very potent chemistry mix for this Washington team this year that they maybe couldn't have gotten if they drafted a young guy and tried to like mature a franchise guy into that role this year. Obviously, if they are good with Fitzpatrick, it becomes like a flash in the pan, like almost mini Buck situation where they're trying to get as much juice out of the orange that they can over the next like 2 seasons, because that isn't sustainable with Fitzpatrick. But, he's no Brady, but I can see it being a situation where it's like these could be 2 or 3 very, very, very good seasons for Washington while they kind of try and sift for gold for a young, sustainable guy.
That's pretty much where I'm at, too. I think my kind of construction for them is like a poor man's Ray Lewis Ravens, where it's the defense and then it's like Trent Dilfer or somebody back there, good enough to get the job done, not going to hurt you more than he helps you, which is good. And then let the defense just dominate people and force turnovers and give you just easy opportunities. And the modern NFL, you're right that the defense, there's going to be games where teams put up 35 on Washington still, just because that's how it works now. But I think the games where last year our joke was that Washington won every game 20-17 in dutiful fashion. And I think this year it's 23-14.
I was gonna say, I think it's gonna be 27-17.
Right. It's just a slightly juiced up version of last year's construct. Yeah. And I'm all about that.
And you know what? Poor man's Bucks, poor man's Ravens. I think we're both kind of narrowing on that might be good enough to win this division this year. A very poor man's version of 2 Super Bowl winning teams. All right, let's close out with our favorite, the Dallas Cowboys. What to say about this team? I have been watching Hard Knocks on HBO, and it's very interesting how that has shaped my perception of this team. I still think, from what I've seen for them this offseason, my take about both the offense and defense remains the same. On paper, they're probably the most talented team in the division. Yeah. And the team that should win the division. It's never going to happen under Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy. It's just not. I'm sorry, Dallas fans. Like, this is... And, it's bigger than Mike McCarthy. It is... Mike McCarthy's the symptoms. Jerry Jones is the disease.
I don't think McCarthy is like good or bad necessarily. I just don't think he's big enough to overturn whatever toxicity the Cowboys already have in place.
Go do your thing about the Cowboys. Right. I just want to pull up my notes about Hard Knocks really quick.
So one of our, for those of you who may have not listened before or who don't intimately know the details of me and Raftery's friendship going back, every single year I'm optimistic about the Cowboys and Raftery is pessimistic, and Raftery's always right. So I'm optimistic again this year. I like Washington more because I think, to your point, Sean, like Washington is just more of a sure thing. They have a lower ceiling than Dallas, but I think there's almost no chance Washington wins 5 games, where I think there's a good chance Dallas wins 5 games. Yeah. Washington just a better constructed, balanced roster right now. But when I look at Dallas, I do think, okay, Dak, objectively the best quarterback in the division. Hurts to say it, but it's true. Zeke, going to be usurped by Tony Pollard at some point. Tony is inevitable. That's just how it is. But the receiving core, man, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Gallup is like, they're going to put up. It's almost like the reverse of the Washington defense. Like, there's going to be games where they look out of sync and they don't look good, but they can hang 45 points on like anyone.
Yep.
And I that upside is tantalizing. So again, don't like them as much as Washington because those defensive holes are there. I don't think they've addressed the depth issues. Coaching is more of a concern for them than it is with Rivera, in my opinion. But there's a lot of reasons. If I were a Dallas fan, I would be looking on the bright side and thinking, okay, who in this division is going to stop Dak? Like, who is going to respond to those kinds of drives? And it is hard to answer that question.
I think for me, my overarching Cowboys thesis is culture, right? Even if I were to take my culture bias out of the equation, 1000% agree the Cowboys, talent-wise, can hang 45 points on anyone on any given week. But will they? That's the big question.
Sometimes, but not
that's
often enough.
How often will they do that?
Yeah,
right?
I hear you.
I think the defense will be improved. I think that it's hard to get worse than how the defense was last year. I don't think they're necessarily a good enough defense to win games where the offense isn't clicking. And does the offense need to click 45 points worth for them to win games? No, I'm not expecting it to be like that. Maybe was the case last year that every game had to be a shootout. That was like 45-37. I think this defense is good enough to hold teams to like 20, 23, 27 and have the offense score 30-35 and win the game, right? I just don't. I just fail to see because they haven't like Washington has last year. They haven't put enough consecutive games on paper to give me confidence. Like with even, yes, like McCarthy's only had one season, but even Dak going back to the Jason Garrett era and Zeke going back to the Jason Garrett era and, Cooper and all this kind of like core they've had for 3 to 4 years, whether it's injuries, culture, weird cold streaks, this or that or whatever. Like my biggest thing for Hard Knocks is they weirdly have not been humbled by going through that. Like they still think they're the cream of the division and that they've just been hard done by luck, which I don't think is like the right mentality to have if you're trying to like fundamentally become something you're not, which is a 12-4 team or a 13-4 team.
Here's my question for you going off of that is that like do you think that's a Southern thing where it's like some sort of like prosperity gospel confidence? Like if I believe it will come true type stuff. Like, or is it just the way the Cowboys
I think you're
work?
keying into something. I think that's not far off. I think it's that combined with just like being the biggest show in Texas.
Right. Because for me, like as a Northeastern person, the Northeastern version of a chip on your shoulder is being like, nobody respects us. Like, I worked so hard for this. Like, I'm going to prove you all wrong. Like, I hate all of you. And from what you've told me about Hard Knocks, it's much more like we got a vibe going on. Like, we're confident in ourselves. We have like this kind of like swagger.
I'm just going to pull out some moments from Saw and Hard Knocks. I just think it's egregious for a football team to go through during training camp. There was an entire 5-minute segment where John Fossil, the special teams coordinator, explained to his special teams unit how his vasectomy worked. Like, not just like, how he felt about getting a vasectomy the previous week. It was like literally he like explained like the snipping of the vas deferens and like it was rough.
Yeah, like a PowerPoint type situation.
They were like asking I'm like, why? You should be talking about coverages right now. Why is this a thing that's going on? And why did you include it in your documentary? McCarthy used an Austin Powers quote to keep the team motivated in practice.
Can we talk about that for a second? Just like, when did Austin Powers come out? Real talk, like
1999.
Right. When were most of these players born?
1999.
Yeah. Like,
That's not even an exaggeration anymore. Like, if you're born in '99, you're 22 years old. You are a NFL rookie right now.
What is the over/under on Cowboys' final roster guys who have seen Austin Powers? This is the longest pause I've ever.
You set the line.
All right. Okay.
What's the line?
You're right. What am I doing? I'm out of practice.
I think that's why my brain was breaking. I was like, am I setting the line and saying over/under right now?
Man. Oh God, my bad. All right. I'm gonna say 11.5.
11.5 over. That's easy.
Okay. You think so? I don't.
For sure.
I don't.
53 players.
I don't know if Austin.
53 players.
Is 20% of 22-year-olds watching Austin Powers? Maybe. I
No,
don't know.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought the question was like has seen Austin Powers. No, has not seen Austin Powers. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. Who have seen it?
Okay, then no, under.
Oh, under 11 and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was about to say, I don't know if like 18 Cowboys are like talking about fat bastard or anything.
Ezekiel Elliott's just yelling, "Get in my belly" in the cafeteria.
Yeah. Send us your best Cowboys Austin Powers memes. That Zeke joke, by the way, I didn't really catch on until right now. It's so good.
And then just so many Jerry moments. There was one moment where like he just Skyped Michael Irvin and just gushed about CeeDee Lamb for about 5 minutes, which like I get, like CeeDee Lamb's very good, but it's just that kind of like glorifying of a player and kind of like it's like Howie Roseman Wentz level. Like, why are you calling a Hall of Famer just to like gush about just for confirmation bias? Like, does your ego really need to be stroked that much? Like, you found CeeDee Lamb in the draft,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he's good. Just have him be good and have him win a ring. Like, you don't need Michael Irvin's opinion on it, you know?
Sure.
And then finally, just like other Jerry Jones one that stuck out, he had a weird line about vaccines, saying he's been pricked more than a Cocker Spaniel.
Oh man,
He spent a good chunk of like the end of the most recent episode, like going on and on about Whataburger and how he gets his Whataburger delivered to him every day. And he said this weird thing where he was like, I don't reheat mine. And in the moment I'm like, He's like, why is that even like an opinion you have? Like, who's saving fast food for later?
So like pop it in the microwave. Yeah.
And then I realized like, like Jerry Jones gets his Whataburger delivered and he's so like absent-minded, it probably just sits there for 30 minutes and he eats it cold.
Well, it's probably like getting up the driveway or something.
But whereas like the rest of us just go to the window and get it hot in the first place.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so weird. It's so bizarre down there. I can't see how that's a winning culture in today's NFL. I just can't. I take off 4 wins from them every time they're just themselves.
What I like about you is that 95% of the time you dismiss culture stuff as like tea leaf reading or like inscrutable, unquantifiable information. And then when it comes to the Cowboys, you're like, culture minus 9 wins.
Well, they're so egregiously transparent about it. Like, I don't like.
I'm with you.
I'm used to like Philly, where like trying to get any real information about the locker room is like trying to infiltrate Soviet Russia, and like, you know, like they wear their weird culture on their sleeves very brazenly. You know, it's like too obvious.
Oh,
anyway,
man.
What's So now we've gotten our general impressions. Do you have like a records prediction you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I'll go from bottom to top if that works.
Go for it.
Giants 4-13.
Ooh.
Yeah, I just think they're one bad like offensive line.
Do you want to actually do like bottom to top, like both, instead of doing ours? So like I do my
Yeah. You do that.
All right. So I had the Giants at 5-12, so one more win.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing we probably agree on with those records is they're going 0-6 in this division.
No, that's what I'm mad at you about. I'm mad at you about that. They're not going 0-6. They're not going 0-6. No. They're going to beat Washington once just because you know that's going to happen. And they're going to beat somebody else once. They're going 2-4. How are they going 0-6 in this objectively bad division and then 5-6 otherwise? It seems like crazy. I think that the Giants have. I don't remember the last time they've gone winless in the division.
Here's why I think I arrived at that 5-win number while getting no wins in this division. The division was so bad last year. We have the benefit of playing the worst teams across the NFC, and we have the AFC West, which the Chiefs are probably good for 4 wins.
Yeah, like 3.5. Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone else in that division, I think, are beatable teams for the NFC East.
Yeah, maybe. I don't.
Broncos, Chargers, and Raiders.
Yeah, it's hard to. I don't. They all feel better than us, except maybe the Broncos, but better than the Giants. That is, but I just like the Giants again. I have them at 4-13, but like I don't think the division is good enough. You know, it's NFC East football. Crazy stuff's going to happen. The Giants are coming out of here with wins. They're not going 0-6. Mark it down.
All right. Third, who do you got?
Philadelphia Eagles.
Of course you do.
5-12.
5-12.
They're going to be bad, buddy. Get ready. Strap in. They're bad. They're a bad football team. So they were 4-11-1 last year. What has changed? What has materially changed? The offensive line's gotten a year older. The defensive line's gotten older. Who is riding in on a white horse? Unless Sirianni is really, really good. Like he's got to be like poster boy Sean McVay 2018 like tier good to change that. They don't have the horses, man. They just don't have it.
I think honestly. Where my prediction falls is basically I gave them the same 5 or 6 wins outside the division that I gave the Giants, and then gave them more divisional wins.
I know that I'm mad at you. You were such a homer about this, in my opinion. That I'm mad at you about this as well. But you give your win count.
All right. Well, I have to give my third place team before I do the
that's
Eagles.
True.
Because it's not the Eagles.
Yeah.
It's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys are coming. So here was my take. I definitely was a homer. I definitely shaved probably 2 to 3 defensible wins off of the Cowboys win-loss totals, just in the name of being an Eagles fan and marking their culture down. If I'm being objective, I think you could easily swap the Eagles and Cowboys in this, but I had the Cowboys at 9-8. I think the Eagles can be 9-8 or, 7-10. 8-9.
That kind of mid-tier.
Yeah, that's where I kind of have them. But honestly, I was doing this on my phone, and I kind of lost track of who was matching up against what. So I was surprised that my numbers came out like this.
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
That was definitely some bias there. I do think 9-8 is in the realm of possibility for the Cowboys as well. I don't think that they're going to be that good either. I don't think I'm being... Let me put it to you like this. When I do say my record for the Eagles in second place, I don't want that to invalidate my Cowboys in third 9-8 thing. They could also just be in second at 9-8. I think 9-8 is
the record
very
is what
real,
matters here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a very real possibility for this Cowboys team.
Yeah. That segues into my second place team, if that works.
Yeah, go for it.
Cowboys at 9-8. That's my second place.
There you
team.
go.
So,
and you got the record right too.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So.
I had the Eagles at 11-6.
Crazy talk. Dude, I don't. Look, it's football. Anything can happen in football. If the Eagles are 11-6, it's only because Jalen Hurts has like turbo boosters strapped to him or something. Like it's so hard to imagine a world where they are balanced enough to make that happen. But I'm gonna enjoy hating. I think this is my year to hate on the Eagles and really yell at each other about it. Last year I was kind of nice. So
yeah, and just kind of thinking through my thought process when putting these together, I just think I roughly gave every team in the division the same wins against their because I think all of these teams are basically as good as one another against the rest of the NFL. Like Washington down to
that.
New York are not like that much. Like Washington's not like radically better than the Giants against most other NFL teams. They're just very good within this division, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I roughly gave everyone 5 to 7 wins against the rest of the NFL. And really the decider was the division against one another, at which I had the Giants at 0-5, the Cowboys at 3-3, the Eagles at 4-2, and then we'll segue right into our first place teams. Who do you have? Obviously,
Washington.
The other one left, Washington.
Yeah.
What's your record you had for them?
I didn't really have a record in mind, but I think 11-6 to 12-5 checks out. They're not good enough to win. It's also harder with the 17 game thing. I have a tougher time mentally. Like, what is a 13-4 team? You know?
Yeah.
But I don't think they're good enough to be like a 13 or 14 win team. But I can see them easily getting to 11 wins, especially in this division.
Yeah. I had them at 12-5, and then, like I said, the big separator for me was I had them going 5-1 in the division. I think the only loss I had for them was against the Eagles.
Just terrible. They're losing to the Giants. Like,
well, I think what's really funny is it's both of our homerism coming, like, just in like Washington bias coming out. Where in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're gonna wipe the floor of this division, but the Eagles always win once.
But the Giants also always win both.
I think you're just applying the same logic as me to Washington.
We're using previous Washington teams because they've been bad forever, and we're like, oh, it's still Washington. Like deep down, both of us are like, but it's Washington.
All right, man. Well, that does it for the preview. I don't want to waste time. I don't have a taker on the league, but I know you have one. Just drop it on us. No. Okay. I want to hear it. I want to just give a reaction. Let's get it going. Yeah. Let's get the season started again. Okay. And then I'll come prepared during our first week 1 episode next week. What's your take, man?
Get rid of coaching staffs. There should not be any coaches.
What the players? What are you talking about?
The players should have to call all the plays, plan the practices. It should be just the players as coaches figuring it out on the field. No more coaching. It's now cheating in my NFL.
Where's this coming from? What were you watching?
I don't know. I thought about this in July. I don't know why it came. It might have been something with like Joe Judge running laps and like that kind of thing. Again, I like Joe Judge. It's not so much, but it's just about like something about like these are grown men. They're all grown men. Just they make them call the plays. Well, it'll be fine. It'll be more fun because then you can have stuff like, oh, you know, Daniel Jones is out here trying, like, dude, the memes that would come out of like a shook quarterback audibling into like 3 straight draw plays or something would be so good. Like there would be nobody else to blame. It would be awesome.
Well, it wouldn't be an audible. It would just be what he wanted to do.
Yeah. Okay, fine. I'm rambling. But
I so disagree with you, but also
you disagree? You think there should be coaches in the NFL?
I think there should be coaches in the NFL.
What a bold stance!
Except for Sean McVay, I think we can ban Sean McVay.
Matt Stafford has to call his own plays.
That's going to be a fun team to watch this year. But you know what's going to be more fun? Doing this with you again and watching this division be horrible. I'm shocked we even think one team in this division is going to get to 12 wins, and I really hope it happens. That would be so fun for us.
I would be if that. We need to start we need to find like a Washington guest fan if that happens. I just need to hear how happy that person. I've been so miserable for so long with my football team, and I don't hate Washington enough yet to like be mad if they're really good. So if Washington gets to 12 wins, can we bring somebody on and just like all just drink or something?
I have a few people in mind, possibly.
All right,
yeah.
Good.
All right. Until then, man.
Yeah, looking forward to
next week. Let's do this.
Sounds
2021
good,
NFL. We're here.
It's time.
I'm excited, man. All right, I'll see you soon, buddy.
Yep. Bye.